Hi there, and welcome to my second video in my Surviving Gestational Diabetes series. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what to eat and how to eat. It seems to be one of the biggest questions once you get that diagnosis of gestational diabetes is, well, what am I going to eat? And it's a fair question because it is a little bit confusing, but it doesn't really have to be. It's a big topic, so I have a couple notes. I want to start with my disclaimer. I am not a doctor. You want to follow your doctor or your nutritionist's advice. You can use this as supplementary advice. I'm going with just anecdotal evidence and what I learned as a nursing student before I got pregnant. But I am not a doctor. So you're going to want to follow a doctor's advice. And if anything that I'm saying conflicts with what your doctor's saying, go with the doctor, go with your nutritionist. You're probably going to see a nutritionist this pregnancy if you've just been diagnosed and you're waiting. This is a good tool to just begin going on that better eating for gestational diabetes journey. So one of the biggest questions you're going to have is, well, what can I eat? How do I eat? And I know there's a lot of ideas out there about diabetes and sugar, and some people think that you're just going to be able to cut out the sugar and eat whatever you want, and that's not really true, because with gestational diabetes our big problem is actually carbohydrates, which encompasses sugars and fibers and starches, and it's in everything, and they are, I don't want to say they're our enemy, because the baby does need quite a few carbohydrates in order for brain development and body development to just be overall healthy. But it's going to be the carbohydrates that are going to spike you for those blood sugar spikes. And those blood sugar spikes are what are dangerous because they go to the baby, causing a lot of different problems, such as big babies, and it can be not so good for the placenta. So we want to keep our blood sugar at a normal level. I want you to think of your blood sugar throughout the day as like a wave, and you want just like gradual raises and lowers as you eat. When you eat, it's going to go up a little bit and it's going to go down a little bit when you're not eating, instead of just these drastic spikes, which is what you tend to see with diabetes and gestational diabetes and what they caught on your test when you were diagnosed. So talking about numbers, you're going to want to be testing your blood glucose. I've actually already uploaded a video. I will include the link below to how to do that, how to choose a monitor. I show you, I prick my own finger. It's not a big deal. So you're going to want to be tracking your numbers. Your doctor will give you exactly what they're looking for. All doctors seem to look for something a little bit different. Whether you're tracking your sugar before you eat, after you eat, an hour after, 2 hours after, an hour after first bite, an hour after your last bite. There's so many different ways. For me, when I was first diagnosed, I had a long wait between when I was seeing my midwife and when I saw the doctor who was dealing with my diabetes. So what I did was I started testing 4 times a day, which seems to be about the standard. I tested my fasting glucose in the morning, which is something you want to test as soon as you wake up. Like literally roll over and prick that finger and get that number. You don't want to brush your teeth first. You don't want to do anything first, because as soon as you start moving, your body's going to start dumping sugar into your bloodstream in order to keep you going, because you need that glucose. It's what feeds your brain. It's what feeds your muscles. Nothing in your body is working without it. So you get that first number, your fasting number, and then I took my 1 hour postprandial, which is just after meal. I do that after my last bite, and I took that after my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner. And so the numbers that the doctors seem to want to aim for is you want a fasting blood glucose of under 5.3 and over 4.0. And after meals, 1 hour after meals is generally 7.8. 2 hours after meals, they generally want 6.7. But again, your doctor is going to tell you exactly what they're looking for. My doctor actually looks for under 6.7 after 1 hour, which is quite strict, but I've been able to manage it so far. So talking about your numbers, so the low number that I said for the fasting is 4.0, and that's a really important number, because when you're talking about your blood sugar, you really need to talk about, especially with diabetes, hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, and it is dangerous. I know you're going to be so consumed with not letting your blood sugar get too high, you may not think too much about low blood sugar, but low blood sugar is it can be a medical emergency, and it is not something you want to mess around with. You do not want your numbers going under 4.0, and if you do notice that they're under 4.0, you need to act immediately. Some signs of low blood sugar can be sweating, trembling, palpitations, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, weakness, hunger and nausea. If you feel any of these, if you just feel off, check your blood sugar. If at any point it's 4.0 or lower, you need to immediately treat that. Don't worry about spiking your blood sugar. You want to have some orange juice. You want to have some candy, some crackers, 3 or 4 crackers, and then test again in a few minutes and see if it comes up. If you can't get that blood sugar up, you're probably looking at heading to the hospital. You do not want to go into hypoglycemia, and yeah, just avoid that. It comes from, if you're on insulin, it can happen. If you have too much insulin, it can come from skipping meals. It can come from stress. It can come from basically anything. So just monitor, keep an eye on those blood sugars, keep an eye on how you're feeling. You and how you're feeling, you're going to start to recognize when you need to eat, when your blood sugar's high, when your blood sugar's low. You know your body, and you're going to know what to look for. So back to what to eat. Again, always go with what your doctor and nutritionist says. But the basics is, it's about carbs. So carbs encompass, like I said, your fibers, your starches, and your sugars, and they're in everything. And you cannot not eat carbs. A keto diet, I'm sure it's wonderful for weight loss. It is not good for pregnancy. Keto being like 0 carbs, because your baby does need them. The general rule that people seem to be told is about 15 grams of carbs with your breakfast, and then between 30 and 60 carbs for your lunch and your dinner, and then 15 carbs for snacks. I don't know how anybody could eat that and not spike. I mean, I couldn't. I was never actually given a maximum or a minimum number of carbs, though. I was told to just monitor baby. If your baby's moving, it's good. You should be getting enough carbs. If you notice a lack of movement, eat a few more carbs. But yeah, carbs are very important to take in, but sometimes they tell you to take a lot, and a lot of women struggle with that. I know for quite a few people who I know who are diet controlled, which means they're not taking any form of oral medication or insulin. They're just controlling their numbers through their diet. They can't eat that number. I mean, it's a lot. For myself, I can't eat a single carb with breakfast at all. Nothing. If I eat my carbs in the morning, they're going to spike me. I can do a little better at lunch and a little better at dinner. And my snacks, I do tend to keep around 15. I do try and eat about 15 grams of carbs at least, but I couldn't do 60 in a meal. That's a lot of carbs. Not only just for my blood sugar, but I mean, it's a lot of food. Another important thing to think about is simple versus complex carbs. They're very different. So you have your simple carbs, which are in your milk and in your processed foods and in like your baked goods, your breads. Those are going to be broken down super quick and give you a spike in blood sugar very quickly. And they're not so much good for us. Those are the ones you'd probably want to try to limit. I don't want to say avoid, but definitely limit. Your breads, muffins, your processed granola bars, anything that's really processed it's gonna be harder for you to keep your numbers in control with. Whereas complex carbs are found in your veggies, your fruits, nuts, legumes, things like that, your quinoas. And those take a little longer to digest. They generally are not processed. The more processed something is, the more simple it's going to be. An example I wrote down here is apples versus apples. So an apple has about 12 grams of carbohydrates in it, and it's a decent snack. It has sugar, and some people can't handle it, but a lot of people can. However, if you process that apple into an apple juice, you are removing a lot of the fiber, and fiber is one of the more complex carbs. It allows your body to slowly digest it, and if you just have that sugar without the fiber, you're looking at 28 grams for 1 cup, which is similar serving size to an apple. And then again, if you go into an apple sauce, which tend to be more sweetened, you're looking actually at 43 grams of carbs. So when you're looking at how you're going to eat, not all foods are the same, and you can't really compare apples to applesauce or apple juice and think they're the same thing. Let's see. So examples of foods like carbohydrates that are found in everyday foods that you may not think of is a cup of cucumbers has 4 grams of carbs, a cup of strawberries has 12 grams of carbs, a cup of milk has 12 grams of carbs. dark chocolate almond kind bars, which are one of my favorite kind of on-the-go snacks. Those are 16 grams of carbs, but they've got some protein in it. And we'll go into protein after and the role that plays, but protein, always pair your carbs with some protein. And then again, yeah, apple juice, 1 cup is 28 grams of carbohydrates. So then you're getting up a lot higher into those carbs, and all you're having is juice. So it can be hard to actually get a balanced meal in if you're taking in all your carbs in just 1 cup of apple juice. And a large McDonald's French fries, 66 grams of carbs. So it's pretty much a no-no for everyone, because French fries isn't a meal. You're not getting really any nutrition from that, and you're already over everything you can use. And it's almost impossible to find some other food to pair with it that has no carbs, even if you can handle 66 grams of carbs in one sitting. So some tricks to how to eat your carbs. I have 3 that I live by, and that's never eat a naked carb. So that means when you're eating your carbs, you want to pair it with something. You don't want to eat just crackers. You want to eat crackers and cheese. You don't want to eat just a piece of bread. You want to have a piece of bread and cover it in a natural, low sugar peanut butter or almond butter or something like that, or tuna. You want to put a protein with your carbs. So what happens is when you eat your proteins, they go into your stomach and they get digested, and they take a long time to get digested. And because of that, your carbs take a long time to get digested too. So you may find that if you eat a single piece of bread, say with butter, you would spike to almost an 8 or a 9, depending on you. But if you eat that with the peanut butter, you may be able to stick around a 6, because normally with just the bread, it would already have been digested. But because you have all that protein in it, you are able to digest it slower, and it's still being digested when you're testing your blood sugar an hour later or even 2 hours later. Another thing that's really important to remember is when you're eating your carbs. So like I said before, I can't eat anything in the morning. My breakfasts include eggs. You're gonna get really familiar with eggs. Greek yogurt, smoothies. I can handle like strawberries, not a full cup, but like half a cup in my smoothies. Never a banana. I've learned bananas and me are not friends. And but never any like simple carbs. I can't have breads, muffins, anything like that. Those are completely out for me for breakfast. But as the day goes on, I guess as I get more active, then I can handle the carbs better. So I can have a piece of bread with lunch, an open-faced sandwich, or something like that. And for dinner, definitely, I can handle more carbs. I might be able to have half a baked potato or some French fries, or I don't do that often, but again, bread or a muffin after, as long as I pair it with the protein. And those tend to be bigger meals too, which is probably why I can handle it a lot better. Takeout. So that is hard. Eating at home becomes very routine. You'll find you have your go-to meals, your go-to snacks, and you stick with them, and that's great. But then it comes time for takeout, and that can be really hard. There's no easy way to do takeout or restaurant meals. If you can make a choice of like a grilled meat, not breaded, and a veggie side. Here in Ontario, we have like Swiss chalet. I can have a quarter chicken or a half chicken dinner with veggies, and my numbers are perfect. For takeout, if you're on the go, it gets a lot harder. With keto being so popular and low carb diets being popular, you can do a lot more options than used to be available. So lettuce buns for your burgers, those are great options. Soups and salads and chilies, they can be good. Just watch the beans. Some soups will spike you. Almost every restaurant you're going to go to is going to have a nutritional menu that you can take a look at that will give you an idea of how much you're consuming in carbs and whether or not you should stay away from certain foods. And I recommend you look at those, and you might want to look at them in advance because it can be really hard. You feel that pressure when you're sitting in line, and you might just want to go for your go-to, a Big Mac or a Whopper or like a burger and fries, and it's not a good choice. You're going to have gestational diabetes for a very short amount of time. You got to make the good choices. It's all about the babies, right? I really want some French fries though, not gonna lie. Okay, so what do you do about a sugar spike? So say you've been doing your best, you ate something, maybe you ate something new and you get a spike. I will never forget the first spike that I got. I was doing so well. It was about 2 weeks in, and I was controlling my numbers, and I was actually starting to think like, maybe I don't even have diabetes because I seem to be keeping my numbers really low. And then I went out for lunch and we were out. I had a dance competition with my daughter and we stopped in at a burrito place. And I knew I couldn't have a burrito because the pitas are just so high in sugar. They're one of the things that really spiked me. So I had what I thought was safe. I had a steak and chicken burrito bowl, which was just chicken and steak and peppers and veggies and beans and rice. And that is the day that I learned that I cannot have rice, not even the half serving that I asked for. I spiked really high, and it's hard not to beat yourself up when you see those high numbers. But you're doing the best that you can, and it happens to everyone. We're all going to get spikes. Even if you eat nothing but the same thing over and over again, a meal that doesn't spike you one day can spike you the next day just randomly, because it's just how the placenta is creating those hormones that destroy that insulin. It has nothing really to do with you. No matter how hard we try to control it, no matter how much we try to do to keep it in control, we're not really the ones in control. So it can happen out of nowhere. So if you do spike, drink water. You should be drinking a lot of water as it is, because water will also help keep your blood sugar down. It's one of the only really safe things that you can drink as much as you want. You want to eat your carbs, simple as that. You don't want to be drinking your carbs. So water should be a big part of your daily life anyway. I have club soda sometimes if I want something fancy. But yeah, you want to drink some water. You want to drink a lot of water, like a big glass of water as soon as you see that spike, and then another one. And then you want to go for a walk or dance around your kitchen or run up and down the stairs or get on the treadmill. You want to move your body. Moving your body causes your muscles to contract, which uses all of that blood sugar up. And then test again in 15-20 minutes, and it should be coming down. And if it's not, repeat. Just keep drinking that water and keep exercising. It's a good idea to get into the habit of going for a walk after every meal anyway, if you can. It will help you be able to eat more. It'll help you keep those numbers down. It'll help you just stay in control of all of it. But that's really all you can do for a spike. And then make sure you're documenting. You're keeping track of your food intake. What is spiking you? What is not? I mean, it can change, but generally, if something's going to spike you, it's going to keep spiking you. The change tends to come the other way, where safe foods suddenly become unsafe, at least for a period of time. You can be tracking your food. You have to be tracking your food in a food log so you can have an idea of what you can eat. You have to be tracking your blood sugars. Those are important tools that you have in order to make good decisions. If you are interested, I have included a link below for my toolkit, which is a free printable kit. Keep it in a binder with you. It has places to put where you eat, what you ate, your carb counts, and how your blood sugar was after. It's good to bring to your doctor's office. It's a really great resource, but I mean, if you don't want to use that, even just keeping your numbers in a notebook is fine. But make sure you're keeping them in a notebook. There's apps, or just make sure you're writing down what you're eating and what it's doing to your blood sugar. I think that's it. So thank you for tuning in. Check out the other videos in my gestational diabetes survival guide series. I'm going to be posting a couple more. I've already posted one on choosing and using a blood glucose monitor, and I hope that's being really helpful for you. I've included the link below to the post that goes along with this video, that goes into some more detail about eating and how to eat, and if you do better with reading than watching videos, you might want to take a look at that. I try to get as in-depth as possible. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be checking them and I'll be answering them in the post or in another video. And yeah, check out the entire gestational survival guide on my blog, which I will include the link to below too. I know this is so overwhelming, and there's so much information to take in, and if this is a new diagnosis for you, I'm sorry that we're all going through this. It can feel like really the end of the world. I remember when I got my diagnosis, I cried for 2 days and it was devastating, but we got this, mama. It's like, this is for the babies, and it's a short period of time. And I know it's so hard to let go of the image you have of being the pregnant woman. I mean, feet up with the ice cream on your lap and being able to indulge, and it sucks. But there's so much good that can come from eating a healthier diet, including getting back to your pre-pregnancy weight sooner, having a healthier baby, having a smaller baby. And it's all worth it in the end. Hang in there, mamas. We're all just doing this for the babies. So I hope to speak to you again soon, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear your feedback below.